know, we have Leonardo DiCaprio going for younger women and now John Tory going for younger women.
You're in control of your career. You know, like if you consent to this, you know what you're putting on the line.
Should you bang your boss? How do power dynamics come into play? What age gaps are appropriate? Welcome back to Cheaper Than Therapy. For today, we're diving into the topical issue of John Tory admitting to having an affair with a staff member and what that means for women in the workplace. To help us through it all, sex, marriage, and family therapist Jenifer Smith will be joining us on today's show.
Hey, Jen, thanks so much for coming back on Cheaper Than Therapy.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be back.
Yes, we're so excited to have you back. And today we are doing things a little bit different. So we're actually going to be jumping in to a municipal scandal here in Toronto and what it means for women in the workplace. So to kind of catch you up to speed, Toronto's Mayor John Tory, he recently announced that he was stepping down as mayor after admitting to having an affair with a staff member. Yeah. Yikes. So we have a statement here. I'm going to read it for you.
Okay.
So, during the pandemic, I developed a relationship with an employee in my office in a way that did not meet my standards, to which I hold myself as mayor and as a family man. The relationship ended by mutual consent earlier this year. During the course of our relationship some time ago, the employee decided to pursue employment outside City Hall and secured a job elsewhere. Now, this is important to note. So the Toronto Star reported that the woman was 31 years old and that the affair lasted months. And for context here, so John Tory is 68 and he's been married for over 40 years. Yeah. So right off the bat, how messy is it sounding to you?
I mean, it's very messy. Anything political with these type of scandals, it's always messy. And it is like a bit of a cliche. Like, I just am wondering, when will these storylines stop, right? Like, you're married, you're already committed. If you decide you want to pursue something with somebody else, you should end the relationship, or talk to your partner about being in an open relationship. But it's definitely becoming cliche. It's super messy. It also just is super disappointing for the city, right? Because it doesn't matter if this person was a good mayor or a bad mayor. It's like, well, whatever was happening now has to stop because of your own indiscretions, and that's really unfortunate.
It is. And also on top of it, so there's the infidelity of it all. This is a long marriage, of course. I'm super sorry for his wife and his family going through that. We've talked about cheating before. It's such a complex thing and it affects the whole family. So, you know, that aside, it's also the power dynamic that really interests me here. And I definitely want to get your perspective on that. So, you know, how do power dynamics come into play when you're dating your boss?
It goes a few different ways for people. Sometimes that's what attracts women to men, is because they're in these power positions. We like someone sometimes that's a little bit more macho, like takes the lead, has like grandiose appearance, and so sometimes that is very attractive. But at the end of the day, like on paper, they're still your boss, and so at any given time, things can get super messy. If things are going great, then they could treat you great. They could even give you a promotion, could increase your pay, or you just get to go to extra perks, right? Like extra events or take private planes or things like that. But when things are not so good, that's when, it becomes a scandal. Now you're losing your job. It's going to be much harder for you to get hired somewhere else because now your name is attached to this. Like, it's all these different things that people, I don't know, always take into consideration when getting into these relationships.
We don't know the details of this relationship. We don't have the whole picture, and we just have his perspective. So we don't have the woman's perspective yet. But, is dating an employee always an abuse of power, would you say?
I don't think it's always the abuse of power. Sometimes two people really have a connection, but early on in the relationship, you have to have that conversation of, okay, if we really want to pursue this, then somebody else is probably going to have to go work somewhere else.
People can have two very different outlooks on the same relationship. So that's also why I'm kind of hesitant, and something that did bother me in Tory's statement, I would say, and again, we do not have all the details, but the fact is that she did have to get a job elsewhere. And so we don't know if that was something she wanted to do, if it was something that, she chose to do, when this happened, and, how does job security play into those power dynamics? Because it's not going to be the mayor leaving most of the time.
It's a big cloud, right? Like over your head always of what's going to happen when this hits the fan. Because I think a lot of times people go into those situations, sometimes naive, that it's not going to happen to us. We're not going to come out. Like, even if this relationship ends in a few months, no one will even know about it, but people always know. And so that, I think, plays a big part on how those relationships break down very quickly. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens when she tells her side of the story.
And then there's also the age dynamic of it all. And, age gaps have been so taboo. We've all been talking about it. We have Leonardo DiCaprio going for younger women and now John Tory going for younger women.
Sometimes just about like libido. It is about finding somebody who matches your sex drive or someone that kind of matches your energy. Even though he's older, he may have like a young spirit or, have a strong libido. And so like someone that's in their 30s matches up more with that than maybe his partner who might also be closer to his age. So that is a lot of what happens with age difference when people end up with somebody else. Their sex drives, their libidos are in different places that actually match each other. So that could be it. I don't know the nature of the relationship, but that could have been it. Or just like the spirit, the energy. You obviously are working at this in the same arena. So therefore there's a lot of interest right there. And so that could have been an attraction as well. But yeah, we definitely see age. I feel like in any of these storylines, right, that there are big age gaps, but a lot of it is to do with just like matching each other's energy.
And to kind of bring the gender of it all into it, I feel like we do see these massive age gap romances.
Yeah.
And, it's usually an older man and a younger woman. And why do you think that dynamic is more common?
Older men and younger women, there's not really a name for it. But if an older woman is courting a younger man, she's not a cougar. So I feel like there is a lot of, and men get more praise if they're messing with a younger woman. And women get criticized. So I think society has just normalized men in that arena, but women's always been criticized because of it, which is just ridiculous. I think probably you don't hear as much about women having affairs is because they're better at keeping them or just not cheating as much as men are.
Affairs are really nothing new. We've seen this a lot, especially in politics. Mm-hmm. But what do you think it means for women in the workplace that, superiors and especially in politics are still having affairs with their employees? And this is still a narrative we're seeing.
I do feel like things like this don't just happen and then we have to deal with them. People know about things leading up to when it actually becomes public. There's a lot of different observations and there are a lot, also the people who are keeping the books notice all the receipts, all the hotels, meals, like all that stuff has to be accounted for. So there are people that definitely know about stuff leading up to that. So I feel like there needs to be some type of policy, right? Like zero tolerance policy of if we find out any fraternization, like you're terminated. And it's both people, not just one. I think about very much of like the people from Good Morning America, JT and Amy, and that whole scandal of them both being married and now they both have lost their jobs. And I mean, that's something in their clause, like that's in their contract. So it makes it a lot easier to just stick by it. So I feel like a lot of political, offices should have some type of zero tolerance policy. And maybe they do, but we don't know about it. But I do feel like there should be some serious stipulations in there, especially if any county money is being used for any of the fair activities. Yeah, I think that should be there. But we see it a lot. I think it's just about people being really attracted to what they're attracted to, and they're willing to risk it all to be with people, and not that in itself is a whole different conversation.
And you think that would be just to avoid the mess and also avoid those kind of sticky power dynamics that come along with dating somebody who is in control of your career?
You're in control of your career. Like if you consent to this, what you're putting on the line. And you have to really be taking into consideration of, am I willing to risk all I've worked for this person, right? Like, what am I going to do if this doesn't work out? Because those have to be thoughts. You have to be evaluating what it is that you're getting yourself into, because it's something that could alter the direction of where your career goes. So I say that for men and for women. I don't just put it all on one person. I really do try to keep it both parties are responsible for really thinking things through before making a move.
John Tory's come out and said that this was a consensual relationship,
Mhm.
but if a boss is pursuing somebody, does that kind of affect the person's ability to consent fully, because there may be worries of, oh, well, if I don't do this, am I going to get fired, or is this going to impact my job? How does that come into play if it is, your superior pursuing you?
Yeah, I think that definitely is a factor. Women have to be in the mindset of, I don't have to do this if I don't want to, of being able to go to HR, and take it up the chain how you need to be able to let someone know, like, well, my boss asked me out, I said no, now he's treating me unfairly, and then you really just start and I always encourage people to keep track of any type of courting like this at a workplace. Like if someone is asking you out, or they're calling you at home, or they're making sexual related comments to you, you want to document all of that, put it in a journal, keep it in a Word document or something where you're just tracking it, and then take it to HR and let them know, like, this is what's been happening. And whether you tell them on day 1 or day 21, you need to just be able to show proof of the patterns of behavior, because that's what's really going to be your case.
100%. And now moving on to cheap advice. So what advice would you have for somebody thinking about pursuing a relationship with their boss?
Don't do it. That's immediate what I think is, don't do it. But again, like, you can't help who you're attracted to or who you love, but you have to really take into consideration if this is the right decision for you professionally. Even if your relationship is great, it can get messy at work. And I've worked in multiple places where people were spouses, and it made for a very tense environment at times when, like, somebody was being ridiculed for their work performance, and then their spouse is trying to take up for them. And it's like, oh gosh, like, you guys got to leave the marriage part out of this. Like, we're talking as colleagues right now.
Yeah, it can definitely get really messy. I worked in the service industry for years. And if you've worked in the service industry, you know that everybody just dates whoever works at the restaurant. And the drama, managers, service, it's a lot.
It gets very messy. Yeah. So I just tell people to err on the side of caution before getting into a relationship with your boss, because you might be risking your career for that relationship.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think like what advice I would give, and also kind of what we've learned about, what does this affair still happening mean for women in the workplace? It means that, you still have to be aware that this is culturally still happening. We're still having affairs in the workplace, regardless of gender, but specifically for women, because we've talked about these kind of power dynamics that we've seen mostly have been, women with a male boss, or at least that we're seeing. There could be other ones happening that we just don't know about. Like you mentioned, women are a little bit better at being a little bit more discreet.
Yeah.
But I think this means that you have to be on guard in the workplace. Sexual harassment is still alive and well in every industry. But even consensual relationships can be problematic in the workplace. So, and your boss is somebody that is a mentor in a lot of times and has that kind of shine and sparkle, especially when it's a career you're really passionate about. It might be a position that you covet, or, you really want to be them one day, or learn from them. And there might also kind of be that shine to it. And, people are like, don't meet your heroes, don't date your boss. Like, the shine won't last. And I think, like, once that shine wears off, you might realize how icky those dynamics are, those power dynamics, and just how sticky that relationship really can be when you're dating somebody that, does, if things are going well, has the ability to give you a raise or advance your career. But if things aren't going well, it can make your career go stagnant. It could make you uncomfortable in your job. You might have to leave or find a different position. It could make your coworkers uncomfortable.
Yeah. As
much as there are positives to, having a closer relationship with somebody in your workplace, there are a whole lot more negatives, it seems, after this conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot more cons, I think. When you're already starting a relationship with all this pressure and stress, it's not good.
Yeah, that's really true. Even if you do it right, and let's say like something happens, you go to HR, disclose your relationship, say, hey, we've entered a consensual relationship. Either if that's okay in your workplace and you're working under those parameters, or you're like, hey, I'm going to now look for different employment and we're going to make this work. That is a really heavy way to start a relationship, and might even build some resentment, I would assume. If things don't work out, I left my job for you, or, I've made these sacrifices for you very early on in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jen. You are always so insightful, and I always love having you on the show. Go take the floor and let the people know a little bit about you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I do always enjoy our chats. It feels like we're just two friends talking. So I appreciate that. So my name is Jenifer Smith. I am in Virginia, located in Virginia, and I am a sex therapist, marriage and family therapist, and mental health therapist. So you can find me on Instagram at Sex Therapist Jen. You can find me at Sex Therapist Jen on Twitter as well, or email me at sextherapistjen@gmail.com. You can book me for workshops, couples therapy if you're in the Virginia area.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate you tuning in for the show today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
This was Cheaper Than Therapy with Brooke Houghton and special guest Jenifer Smith. Make sure to tune in next month to check out our next episode. And in the meantime, leave your own anonymous question with a link down below. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our Narcity channel to see more content just like this.